Okay. I'd like to call the December meeting to order, the zoning board. There's no letters or requests for continuances or anything we have to go over?
None that I'm aware of.
Okay. The first item tonight is Appeal 2842, which was continued from November. The applicant, Gail Blower, located at 225 Lansdowne Avenue, Wayne, PA, is zoned R3, seeks variance from the provisions of zoning code 28025D1 to allow the existing porch to continue to extend up to 6 feet into a 16-foot side yard on the south side of the historic building. In approving the subdivision of 225 Lansdowne in 2 lots by Resolution 2006-37 dated November 27, 2006, the Board of Commissioners imposed a condition that no building permit would be issued for the subdivided lot 227 Lansdowne unless the porch is modified to comply with the side yard setback requirement, or the zoning board allows the porch to encroach into the side yard setback. If the variance is not granted, the applicant will remove a portion of the porch. Jim, would you like to give us a summary of where you are at this point?
Sure. Thank you. I think we had probably discussed last time the porch only extends 4 feet into the side yard, so it's actually 4 feet into a 16-foot side yard. Last time there were a number of issues that came up, and we have filed a brief that attempts to respond to some of those issues. I have some additional exhibits that I can hand the board that further explains our position on those issues. One of the issues was the suggestion that perhaps the addition of the new lot at 227 and the house that's going to be built there would cause a certain amount of crowding in the community. And we did some research on that, and I have 2 documents that I wanted to hand up to you, if I may. What exhibit number are we up to, John?
Oh, good question.
I don't seem to have a copy of your brief either.
I have
for the
copies
file.
of that with me,
okay.
if anybody would like it.
Yes, may I have one, please?
Yes, why don't I just...
Thank you.
Matt, do you have an exhibit list? Do you know where we are? John has it? Okay.
I'm looking, I'm trying to see where we are right now.
Well, I have an A3 here.
Is the transcript there?
I know we got at least A3. I think we may have gotten beyond that.
No, I think we got beyond. I've got A3 as my last exhibit.
Okay.
So we'll make this we'll start with do you want to make your brief A4?
Certainly. Brief can be A4.
Brief, will be A4. Okay. Okay, this is a Lansdowne Avenue lot sizes, and I assume this would be A5?
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. A5 is a schedule of Lansdowne Avenue lot sizes in which the 2 lots owned by the applicant are highlighted and in bold. And the list starts at the top with the highest, largest amount of square footage at 33,110, and down to the smallest, which is 12,250. And the applicant's lots on A5 are 225 Lansdowne at 18,966, and 227 Lansdowne at 16,686.
But isn't the problem side yards, not square footage?
Yeah, these
Yes.
lots are conforming, aren't they? I think they're fully conforming lots.
The lots are fully conforming.
So the size isn't really an issue. I think we're not arguing that there's any
It's
problem with
a
that.
side yard issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, no, the intention of putting this in is to show that there is not going to be any overcrowding in the neighborhood. And the fact that there are lots that are much more crowded, there are houses that are closer together than what we're proposing here. A6 shows pretty clearly that if you look at the distances between any set of adjacent homes on the street, and we have given you all of those distances, these two lots are reasonably far apart in conformance with the way the neighborhood is set up. Again, the zoning code ensures, or should ensure, that houses are at least 30 feet apart because you have minimum side yard requirements of 15 feet in R3. And 225 and 227 under our proposed condition will be 32 feet apart. And then from 227 to 229 is at least 36 feet. We're not very precise on that measurement, but that's about what we believe it will be at the minimum.
You're saying the distance, you're saying 32 feet between 225 and 227.
Is your mic on,
Correct.
Peter?
You're saying the distance between 225 and 227 is 32 feet.
Right.
That's not counting the porch intrusion?
No, that counts the porch. It'll be 32 feet from the edge of the porch to the northern wall of the dwelling on 227 under the condition that we've proposed, which is that we maintain a northern side yard of 20 feet at 227.
Did you bring a plan showing the positioning of the new house?
We do have it,
Okay.
yes. Do you want to see it?
Yes, please. Did you have one to go into the exhibits, or just,
Oh, okay.
did you have one we can keep with the record or not?
Should I give him this one? Okay. Here's the set.
Okay.
Yeah. These are the plans. This is A7. And you'll see that on the plans it shows a 20-foot side yard between the new house at 227 and the existing house at 225.
So your position is what? That
Well,
you don't want to restrict the other lots? The other lot, I should say, lot 2.
I'm not sure I understand the question. We don't want to
We
restrict.
were discussing, as I recall, last month, several options that you could possibly do to limit the space between the two buildings. Were any of those considered?
You mean such as reducing the building envelope on Lot
Yes.
2? We're not willing to do that.
Okay.
That would require us, we believe, to go back to HARB on the design of the house on Lot 2 on 227. And since we already have HARB approval for the design of that house, we don't want to go back. And frankly, we don't see any reason to reduce the building envelope in light of the fact that we're able to provide 32 feet of clearance between the two houses.
No signal. Any questions or comments from the board?
Now, there's a case I can also hand up, which I cited in the brief. I don't know that anyone's had an opportunity to look at it.
Yeah, I have looked at that case. The board met in executive session to discuss the brief a little bit. And the case is similar, except as I read the case, the intrusion was about a half a foot.
Yeah,
and
0.7 of a foot.
It was less than a foot.
Correct.
And this is 4 feet. And frankly, I did not research this further. I think this is before the cases that really get into citing de minimis. It's a very old case, but the court was clearly treating it as a de minimis case. And I think that for that case to be controlling, the board would have to find that the intrusion here of 4 feet is de minimis, and that's for the board to resolve, but I have to say I think it's a little more than de minimis.
Well, the case, as you know, doesn't specifically mention the de minimis concept, but what it does point out is that even though you had a self-created hardship there, there was no reason not to grant the variance because there was adequate distance maintained between structures.
Mm-hmm.
That, to me, is the guiding principle of the case, more so than the de minimis situation.
I mean, frankly, if you read I was interested, there was language in the case that was really getting very close to Hertzberg.
I agree.
26 years ahead of its time.
Right. That's certainly true.
Well, I don't know what the facts were in that case, but an odd thing about this case is that the encroachment into the side yard is of the existing structure. It has nothing to do with the new structure. So this encroachment didn't exist until the subdivision was approved.
Well, what's similar about this case as opposed to the Pizdraowski case that we cited is in that case it was also a self-created hardship where the property owner had subdivided and actually it was I think it was the Crawford case that was cited in there.
Mm-hmm.
That was even closer on the facts where there was a garage that was placed in an encroaching position by a subdivision, and the proposal was to turn that into a residence, and the court found that the variance had been properly granted because there was adequate distance maintained from other structures.
I think the facts in the was it Pizdraowski, it's a mouthful of syllables case, which I did read. I did not read the Crawford case, but I did read the excerpt of the Crawford case in the decision, and I had our librarian, give me a clean Shepherd's on it. The subdivision was the event that put it out of compliance, and the court really seemed to go off on this is not a very big encroachment. There is language that suggests that dimensional variances are of less moment than use variances, thus heralding the Hertzberg decision of 26 years later. But what was key in that, in my view, were two things. One, we are talking about less than a foot of encroachment. And secondly, the board had found in favor, and I read the cases saying that the board had not committed error, not that the applicant was entitled to that approval if the board had gone the other way, but that under these facts, the courts, and this is a Supreme Court decision, but all the way up the chain, would affirm the board on that record.
Right.
Jim?
Yeah.
In looking at your plan, the original plan from last week, I forgot the number on it, showing the layout of the existing house.
The subdivision plan?
Yes. You show the existing dwelling walls with hash marks. The porch is a line, but it really isn't shown as part of the house footprint. And then when you go to your new plans, the porch doesn't show up at all on that plan. Any reason why?
Well, the
The one up
This-
top.
this- the new plan-
The existing house.
right. This is an architectural drawing designed to show the configuration of the new house. And it was not intended to show precisely from an engineering standpoint where the old house sits on 225. So I would treat the plan that's already been put in as an exhibit earlier, the subdivision plan from 2006, as being much more precise in terms of where things are located at 225.
Mr. Greenfield, one thing I have advised the board on in terms of HARB, personally, I'm inclined to agree with your statement in your brief that you don't need to go back to HARB for approval. But fundamentally, I don't think that's for the board to be concerned about. We
I
only
agree.
have jurisdiction over the zoning ordinance. Anything we do here, whether we agree with HARB having jurisdiction for another go or not, is not our business. It's outside of our jurisdiction. So we can't speak to, and in fact, I've suggested the board take no consideration of in this case, anything to do with HARB, if anything, but to just focus on this as a zoning case.
I'm in complete agreement with you on that. That question is not before the board. I think that's right.
How do your impervious numbers stack up on both of these lots?
Again, I'm not, I mean, they comply because that's, the Board of Commissioners found that they complied. I think our proposed impervious on, well, let's see, it's on the plan.
It's to the lower left of the subdivision plan. Has
Right.
Building square footage and impervious coverage area by lot.
Yeah, we're well under the 35% limit on both lots.
Again, if the board were to grant an approval, it would only be to the side yard, and they would be, no relief would be offered on, would be accorded on any other zoning code provision.
Right.
So they would still have to comply with impervious coverage. Nothing, that question is not before the board.
Any other questions from the board?
No.
Shall I sum up where we are? This is a porch on an historic building that we would very much like to preserve. Ms. Blauer has incurred the expense of bringing this appeal before the board only because she wants to save the porch. She didn't have to do that. She could have altered the porch to remove the portion that encroaches into the side yard, but it was her very strong preference to retain the porch, and that's why we're here. The porch is open. It's only on the first floor of the house. It's not enclosed fully by walls. It's simply a porch. And we've offered a condition that would allow 32 feet of clearance between the house, between the porch itself and the new house on 227. I think if you're looking for a rationale to grant this variance, it is in effect de minimis, because you have an incursion of only 25% into the side yard. You have an existing structure, so we're seeking the minimum variance that we could possibly seek. And there's no negative impact upon anyone in the neighborhood or otherwise. There's no further imposition on public services. There's nothing of that nature happening. And I think, I would hope that the board would find that it's advisable to retain this porch because it's good for the community. And it preserves a historic asset. And I think under the circumstances, it makes sense to grant this variance.
All right. Thank you. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak to this? Yes, sir. If you can come up, identify yourself, and be sworn in.
Sir, if you'll raise your right hand.
Okay, sure.
You do solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
Yes, I do.
And state your name for the record, please.
Brendan McGowan, and I live at 229 Lansdowne, which is
I'm
south.
sorry,
229 Lansdowne, which is the property immediately south. One general comment. The plan here is not the final plan that was approved by the Board of Commissioners. It was a prolonged 2-year battle, which was not fun for anybody, especially Gail, I'm sure. But The concern that I had that went before the Shade Tree Commission was that the driveway that abuts our property line, there are some heritage trees, and in addition, there's some other trees that straddle the property line. They're shared trees. We went through surveys, and it was discovered that half of the trees are on our property, half are on Mrs. Blauer's. The concern that the shade tree had is that if you put a driveway right there, it's going to compact the roots on those trees. I think the goal for both of us is to have a green screen between the houses. I don't want to look at a big 32-foot wall closer to our property. So the plan that was approved by the Board of Commissioners was the driveway was on the north side of the property, not on this side. It started out this way, but was modified halfway through. So this is a complete reversal. And in my opinion, it's the worst of both worlds. Not only do we have the house closer to our property, but they're squeezing the driveway right on the property line, putting it right on top of the roots. And from what I can tell, just looking at that design, this is the first time I've seen it, the driveway is literally touching the property line.
We were looking at that because it appeared to us that the trees were in the middle of the driveway, actually, in some cases.
I presume those circles, I'm not an engineer, I presume the circles are how far the roots are extended out, but.
Yeah, I would assume that that's the canopy, but some of those appear to be in the driveway where the trunks would be.
There are. I mean, there's probably 6 or 7 trees that are shared right along the property line, so.
Although
Selfishly, it is kind of the worst of both worlds for us. The house closer and a driveway that very likely could jeopardize the health of the existing trees and prevent us from planting trees or Gail planting trees. I don't know how she's going to plant trees if the driveway's abutting the property line. So.
Well, your points
this
are
is-
valid, sir. The only problem is it's not within our jurisdiction. All we can do is consider the application for a variance on the other lot.
I understand, but are they allowed to modify the building plan that was
That's-
approved by the Board of Commissioners?
That's not our call. We really can't speak to that issue.
Matt, can you answer that?
In terms of the driveway, are they allowed to modify that?
Correct.
That would have to be when the grading permit's submitted by Ms. Blauer to the engineering department. That's going to be an engineering issue, determination. But from what I understand, yes, the driveway can be switched from one side or the other. And driveways can go, unfortunately, they go right to the property line as well. There's no minimum setback standards for driveway. But I'll double check with you.
What rights do I have as a neighbor if we have shared trees that hurdle the property line, and the shade tree and both Dan Malloy stated, we had numerous meetings that the driveway was to be put on the other side of the property. I'm just shocked to come here
Yeah, I
tonight
will.
and to see this plan
I will talk to
modified
Dan
for
about that
setting.
and see where that stands, but I'm not able to address that right now, unfortunately, but we'll get an answer to you.
Yeah, I would like clarification on how they can switch the plans when Dan Malloy requested that the driveway be on
Actually,
the other
as I
side.
recall, as long as the building is within the building permit, the permitted size, the envelope, that it can be put in there any way they want. Now, unless there was a deed restriction that went along with the lot, I can't answer that.
Well,
It's not something that we necessarily address here. I
Sure, I
understand
understand.
your particular problem, though. I
Well-
think it is something that you
I
might
get-
want to take up, perhaps with your commissioner.
Sure, and I guess I'd like to know what is the recourse if they build a driveway right on top of a shared tree?
Well, we can't really give you legal advice.
Okay.
You're going to have to seek that advice.
I'm not sure. I don't know.
Okay, well, for what it's worth, it is pretty
All right,
shocking to
I
come here and
understand.
see this tonight.
Yeah, thank you. Jim, did you have any comments?
No, I should point out that there's a considerable distance between the house that'll be on 227 and Mr. McGowan's house, because he does have actually a pool between his house and the property line. So there's a fair amount of distance in there. And certainly, Ms. Blauer's going to do everything she can to preserve
Well,
whatever
yeah.
trees she can when she goes through the construction process.
Well, is the driveway, according to this plan, it looks like the trees are on the driveway.
Yeah, again, though.
I know it's not our issue.
That plan is,
Yeah, I
well,
don't-
it's not, and also that plan is not precisely engineered. That's an architect's drawing.
Yeah, but the measurements are there. Are the measurements precise or not?
Well, no, I mean, we're allowed, in essence, a 35-foot wide building envelope.
Mhm.
And so the way the architect has situated the house on the lot, excuse me, is to allow the 20-foot side yard to the north and a 15-foot side yard to the south. And that makes us fully compliant with the code.
Was the house flipped from what you had agreed to with the commissioners?
I don't think so. I mean, I think the building envelope,
I'm talking about the positioning of the house in the driveway.
well, I don't think the driveway was precisely indicated on the approved plan, on the approved
Could we ask your
subdivision.
client that question?
Sure.
Had you agreed to have the driveway on the other side of the property?
We had it in both directions, on both ways. And it can go either way. It doesn't, I'm not married to the driveway on any side. And
Would it work with your garage and so forth if it were put on the other side?
It might,
Okay.
but I mean, I think that's a question that really.
I know it's not
Oh.
something that we really address. I'm just
No,
kind of curious.
only the architect could answer that.
Mm.
And you know, I know you have a patio out there.
Okay. All right. Any other questions from the board? Thank you. Any other comments from the audience? No. Do you want to move that your exhibits be part of the file?
We do. We move the
All right,
admission of
thank
all
you.
our exhibits.
Then we'll close the record on this, and we'll take a vote. Charlie, would you like to handle it?
Yeah, I would vote that we deny the variance in section 28025D1, allowing the existing porch to extend up to 4 feet into the side yard. I just don't believe that we've been given a hardship, on this.
Peter?
I agree. I just want to comment on the one point you mentioned about the porch is a one-story. Comment on the one remark you made, the porch is a one-story porch and not enclosed, but there's nothing that would prevent it from being enclosed at some future point. But I agree with Charlie. I vote to deny.
Noah?
Yeah, I'd vote to deny it for the same reasons. Whatever hardship is there is self-created, and I really don't see a hardship. The house has been fine the way it is for years, and there's really nothing that's changed, except that they changed. So I vote
I
against it.
concur with the
Cora?
comment.
I concur also. So the application is denied. Next appeal is 2843. The applicants Nancy and George Hebard, located at 318 Ivan Avenue, Wayne, PA, is zoned R2, a request for variance that would relieve them from the zoning code, section 280-109A, and enable them to place a new fence in the same location as the current one. This relief is requested because trees form obstructions in their woods along the road. Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, I'll swear you in now if you'll raise your right hand. You do solemnly swear or affirm this testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. And state your full name for the record, please. State your name for the record.
I'm Nancy Hubbard at 318 Ivan Avenue.
Would you like to use a handheld mic there so you can point out the plan and so forth? Before you start, let's number your exhibits, okay? We'll let your application be A1. And let's have the photos as A2. Deed A3. And you have a sketch of the property. We'll make that A4. Anything else? Any exhibits?
No.
Okay. Go ahead, please. Yes, I did. Yep. The application was A1. And the pictures were A2. the deed A3, and the plot plan sketch A4. Yes, ma'am.
My husband and I purchased our property diagonally across from the entrance to this building almost 39 years ago, and when we did purchase the property, there was the current stockade fence that does give us a little relief from the traffic on Ivan Avenue. And through the years, we have replaced a pale here or there as it has rotted, but it has gotten to the point where we feel aesthetically it would be best to replace the entire fence. And we received a permit, but I was told at the time that it required a 13-foot setback. So we measured, and at one point the fence is 12 foot, I can't remember if it's 9 or 10 inches from the road, but there are other places where it is as close as 10 feet from the road. We would have been happy to put the fence 13 feet back because it's going to be entirely new, but when we looked at the woods, which are between our house and the road, we noticed that there were a great number of trees, some of them extremely large, that are in the way, which is probably why it's not exactly straight right now. And there are 3 new houses closer to Lancaster Pike from ours, and a large number of trees had to be cut down to build those houses, so we think it would be nice if we could preserve the ones that are still on our property. So for that reason, we would seek relief so that we can put the new fence exactly where the current one is, knowing that there is never a place where it is less than 10 feet from the road.
What's the height of the new fence and your old fence?
The new fence is exactly the same as the current one. It's 6 feet high.
6 feet, right.
And it's the same construction, isn't it? The new one's going to be the same?
Exactly the same stockade type fence.
Are you replacing the posts that go in the ground also?
They recommended that we do that. Part of the reason that we can't just repair parts of it is that the fence is so old that it's in 10-foot sections, and now they only make 8-foot sections, so all the posts do need to be redone.
But it's basically, you would like to put it back in the same spot it's in right now?
Exactly the same, because it weaves through the trees the way it is now.
Can we call this a repair?
Yeah, I think it's a repair. I don't even think.
This fence, I'm looking at the fence ordinance, was originally, I'm sorry, the original fence ordinance looks like it came in 1980, and you say this fence has been there for almost 40 years, so it should predate 1980. And you propose to simply repair, replace the fence in its same position and no greater height. So it seems to me there's a nonconformance argument to be made in favor of this.
Yeah, but I don't see how you
It is
can-
illegal non-conforming.
I would agree with that, but I don't see how you call it a repair. It's replacing the whole fence.
Yeah, it's a replacement.
It's just a replacement.
Is there any other evidence you want to put in the record? Any other testimony?
Is there more testimony?
Yeah, anything else you wanted to tell us or give us?
No?
I think that the summary on what you mailed
Okay.
out was excellent, and essentially, we want it to be the way it is now, only without pieces that are falling off and rotten.
Okay.
Well, Madam Chairman, I move that we approve the variance as requested.
I agree.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay, I agree also. All right. It's approved.
You want to move that your testimony you put into the record? 'Cause we put
Yeah,
the-
we'll move that your exhibits be put into the record also.
We appreciate
You're good.
your
Thank you.
consideration.
All right.
Before we leave, I think, we have to say goodbye to Kathy for all
Well,
these
I
years.
was gonna ask Kathy to come back in January,
Why?
because we want you to come back. Maybe we'll give you a balloon.
A balloon with a happy face?
Yeah, no happy faces for you, Kathy. I just.
I'll
wanted
come
to go
back
on the
if you
record
give me a balloon with a
that,
happy face.
After many years of service, Kathy has served this board in both as a chairperson, as a member, and a co-chairperson, that she will be greatly missed. And also request that she come back with a balloon with no happy face in January.
If you would like, Charlie, I'll come back for the balloon with no happy face,
Now,
but
do we have to vote?
Thank you.
Can we vote in January with her, or for a new
Well,
chairperson?
The reorganization occurs in January.
Okay.
so I can actually be
Yeah,
official
that's
until I
right.
get booted out.
That's exactly why we wanted you
Okay.
back, but I thought if I told you that, you may not come back.
Well, thank you very much. Just in case there's a huge snowstorm or we have no meeting in January.
You come in February.
Okay.
The next meeting.
We need you to come to the next meeting.
Okay.
meeting.
I want to say how much I enjoyed working with you all and how much I learned. And I think I'll probably go through withdrawal the third Thursday of every month from now on. But my life will be a little easier because I don't have to make a mad dash from media and the Delaware County Planning Commission to get here in time for this meeting. But I will miss you all, and I enjoyed and learned much with it. Thank you, John. And everybody, thank you very much.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you.
Okay.